Welcome into the bye week blues, Carolina Panthers fans. No game for the Carolina Panthers this week, so we sit back in our blues, in our process blue, and watch as other teams play this weekend, and nothing going on for the Panthers. And we're calling it the bye week blues, not because the team is 3-7, although maybe you could make a case that that's why you are blue, but we're calling it the bye week blues because the Panthers have won 2 games in a row coming into this week, and it felt like this team has got something going. But the back half of their schedule, it is tough. I started looking at the schedule. That alone, we knew this. We knew this coming in. And then today, as I was online on X, folks, I am still on X. I'll remain on X. I'm also on Blue Sky, but I don't know how much I'm going to use that. I find the platforms that I use, as a content creator, hate being repetitive and posting everywhere. So I don't know how much I'm going to use it. But the Panthers have the third hardest schedule in the NFL remaining. The Bears have the toughest schedule. Their opponent's winning percentage is almost 71%. Right below that, you have the Cleveland Browns at 59%, and then the Carolina Panthers at 58.8%. We know right now, the bye. You follow that up with the back-to-back defending Super Bowl champions, world champions, Kansas City Chiefs. The game is at home, but we know Kansas City's going to travel well. Is Taylor Swift going to finally make her appearance in North Carolina and at Bank of America Stadium? Maybe. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Philadelphia Eagles. Boy, did they look good. And I came into this year saying, the Panthers are going to steal that one. That game is at Philadelphia. It has going to be a hostile environment. It's one of the toughest places to play in the NFL, in my opinion. Dallas Cowboys is now a home game. Not now a home game, but now a much more winnable game for the Carolina Panthers. The Arizona Cardinals, who, we've had their number, but I'm not going to say this game should be easy. It should be competitive. Then Tampa Bay again, and then the Atlanta Falcons. So sitting here at 3-7, I posed the question to folks, and we got a ton of responses. I wanted to know everyone's prediction on the back half of the schedule. There are folks that are saying 7-0, which is kind of rough. And then folks more on the norm of the scale with expectations of maybe another 2 or 3 wins. And I think I'm in that boat. When you look at earlier predictions, I think a lot of fans sat in that 5 to 6 win range. It's not fun being excited about 5 to 6 wins. However, if the Carolina Panthers can get to 5, 6 wins, maybe even 7 wins, given the state of the roster, and we know for a fact that Bryce Young is the quarterback of the future, I really like this as a way to close out the year. And I don't know if momentum is real in the offseason. I don't know if winning now helps, but I can tell you it does feel like it will help build some culture. And so you take last year with the 2 wins, we're already at 3. Can you close it out and get another 2 or 3 on the schedule? It's going to be tough. Very competitive games. Now, we all know games within the NFC South, always up for grabs. You look at our division right now with not Kansas City, goodness gracious, with the Atlanta Falcons in the lead favorably, and nobody really close to them. We know the same Saints have the same record as us. Tampa Bay with a losing record. But Atlanta's got a tough test this weekend as they travel to Denver. Can they pull it off? That's going to be a tough environment. We saw it. This is one of those games I said with Denver and Atlanta where I hate the Falcons. Well, I hate the Falcons, but I also hate Sean Payton so much that I wish the Panthers... Here I am. This is what I get in the off week. I wish the Atlanta Falcons could put up 100 points on Sean Payton and the Denver Broncos. Probably not the case, but then I also don't want the Falcons to win another game and just continue to increase their lead over us within the division. But it's tough sledding for you as a fan. I think the other question I heard as I was listening to WFNZ today was a question around Bryce Young, and it was Willie P. asking Alex Zetlow of the Charlotte Observer what he thought Bryce Young needed to do to be the starting quarterback going into 2025, or at least Bryce Young plus a veteran. And I think a lot of us thought maybe a few more wins, although with the way Dave Canales is playing this and not being committal to Bryce Young, not selling out, not calling him the starter, and we don't know what type of game's being played here, but it feels like he may have to get a few more wins. And from where you would probably say Bryce Young getting 4 or 5 wins with this team would be a check mark, a very positive thing. Maybe he's got to get 6 or 7 wins on the season. Get this team to a 6 and 7 win team and let you feel like, hey, heading into next year, we like Bryce, or at least we like Bryce enough that we don't have to draft a quarterback or don't feel the need to draft a quarterback, and we'll bring in a veteran to compete with Bryce Young. And I think that's going to be the case. Now, something funny would be Plummer potentially coming off the practice squad to compete. But if you're Dave Canales, there's really no reason to put Andy Dalton back out there. We've talked about this numerous times. Andy Dalton gives you nothing. I mean, especially with Bryce winning back-to-back games. And yeah, he's had good defensive play. He's had a good rushing attack, like things built around him to help him win those games. But I'd love to see it. I'd love to see Bryce Young out there. I don't think Andy Dalton is giving you that much more. And I really want to see Bryce Young be able to try to push the ball down the field. Something that he hasn't really done. We've talked extensively about the offense, the offensive play calling, all those things put together. You just like, can we see it? Can we just let Bryce Young roll? And he's going to have a new weapon coming back. Miles Sanders, again, I don't know. We don't have an official injury report this week. Sounds like things are okay, not as serious as we thought. But all signs point to Jonathan Brooks being the running back here as far as the backup running back with Chuba Hubbard leading the way. So I don't know about you, but I'm excited to see him back out. Cannot wait to see the debut, the premiere of Jonathan Brooks. No idea what his opening stat line predictions are going to be, but I think it should be a good premiere. And you see him firing off along with the trio of Xavier Legette, Jalen Coker, and of course, Jatavian Sanders. It's going to be good. Now, we've also talked about this, and I posted a video of like the impact of Adam Thielen making his return. Now, just because he's back doesn't mean he's technically going to start. Like, he could still be a scratch when it comes to game day. Once we get closer to Kansas City, once we get into next week, we will know more. But hey, speaking of records, speaking of production and benching and sitting, I thought it would be a good time to sit down and go back and just, hey, let's look at the last few games, but let's look at the first half of the season. I mean, technically we're past the halfway point, 10 games in with another 7 games to go. But why not, dive into some numbers a little bit, or at least look at what we have and then go from there. Let's analyze the first half of the year. Starting out, New Orleans Saints, 47-10 loss. I don't think anyone could have predicted that. Coming out of that game, it felt like to me New Orleans was going to be a good football team, and man, have they crumbled. They've fallen apart. Although I have to give them a hat tip. They are technically ahead of us in the division right now based off of record within the division, so they have that going for them. So you follow that up, and I mean, you couldn't have started any worse the way Bryce Young did in that game. You could not. You follow that up with the Week 2 loss at home, opening weekend at Bank of America Stadium to the Los Angeles Chargers, 26-3, in a game that just wasn't close. But there was a few things that didn't go our way. We didn't have Derek Brown. Things fall apart. After this game, we get the decision hear from Dave Canales that Bryce Young's still the quarterback. The next day, he follows that up. Andy Dalton is the starter. Andy Dalton travels. The team travels with Andy Dalton, believe it or not. The whole team went to Las Vegas to take on the Raiders. And Andy Dalton looks like a new man. 300 yards, first 300-yard passing game of the season. They knock down the Raiders 36-22. Adam Thielen gets hurt. Deontay Johnson looks like a weapon. And this team is suddenly finding itself in a good position. At 1-2, you're like, can this team get to 500 after week 1 for the first time since 2022? since the I'm Back game by Cam Newton. Competitive game against the Cincinnati Bengals. Bengals just had more. Remember the play to end the second half right at the goal line. We're unable to make the tackle. That could have been a big swing. There are a few things that just didn't go the Panthers' way. We travel up to Chicago in week 5, lose to the Bears 36-10. The Caleb Williams semi-breakout game made us look so freaking silly. This was the start of the demise for that pass rush that we never really had. They just got worse. Caleb Williams was back there cooking. DJ Moore was cooking. Whole Bears team started off hot. Again, Chuba Hubbard scores the first touchdown of the game, and it feels like, oh man, we got a thing going for us. So you roll out and get another loss. Then you face Atlanta at home, late kickoff. Again, a lot of these late kickoff games, and you're like, why are we having a late kickoff here on the East Coast right now? Why? Lose 38-20. Again, in the game a little bit, but not so much. Things just, again, crumble away. Fans are like, okay, you still going to roll with Andy Dalton? Yes, Andy Dalton's the quarterback. He gives us the best chance to win. We continue to hear that from Dave Canales. You get into week 7, go up to the Washington Commanders, 40-7 beatdown. And you got to remember in a few of these games, Bryce Young gets in late. So fans are during this whole time, we're like, is he going to be traded? Is he going to be here? Is he done? Everybody's like writing him off, ready for him to go. People are bashing Dave Canales. You got to remember all these things happening in the background as this goes through. Washington was destroying the Carolina Panthers to the point that Bryce Young should have gotten the game much earlier. I mean, coming out of halftime, he should have been in. But he's not. And we also have to remember throughout the course of this time, at one point, Dave Canales says he wanted to get Bryce in to protect Andy Dalton as the starting quarterback. Like, that all compiles. Then an unfortunate event happens for Andy Dalton as he gets in a wreck with his family. I'll continue to say it pisses me off sometimes, a lot of times, with the way that social media takes off on a story. Someone sees a clip, someone talks about it, and it gets blown up everywhere. Probably before Andy Dalton could even tell his extended family that he's okay and the family's okay. They hear he's in a wreck. Oh my gosh, is he all right? Pictures emerge. We initially think it's a left-handed injury. Turns out it's a right thumb sprain. Andy Dalton misses against Denver. Not gonna play. Makes sense. See Bryce Young go out again, score the opening touchdown. I broke down that touchdown pass to Xavier Legette on X. If you haven't seen it, really good play because there was pressure right off the edge. Robert Hunt gets beat. He gets the ball to Xavier Legette. There's also a really good route ran by Jadavian Sanders. That was nice. That was a good play. But they lose. It's not really competitive. Sean Payton's running trick plays. Sean Payton is running fakes and trying to run up the score. It's closer than it appears. We score late. It's 28-14. So you move into New Orleans. At this point, Andy Dalton assumes to be healthy. Dave Canales continues to evaluate, to make a decision. We're going to look at everything, as he likes to say. Bryce Young gets the start. Carolina Panthers put together a game-winning drive. Chuba Hubbard seals the deal late in the game, and the Panthers win 23-22. Dennis Allen gets fired. The Reaper, the Grim Reaper, the Carolina Panthers come out, folks. New York Giants, Week 10, travel to Germany. Bryce Young starting again. Still no commitment by Dave Canales, but we go over, we take care of business. Chuba Hubbard dislocates his knee. He rushes for a career high. He gets a contract, 4-year extension. Panthers win in overtime. Panthers force turnovers. They do things they haven't done, and they win. And here we are at the bye week at 3-7, and I have to tell you, based on how things have played out, I couldn't be happier with the way this team has finished down the stretch. And when you start to play good football, you kind of just want to keep playing. Like, you don't want to sit out. You want to keep the wheels moving, keep your legs going. Don't stop the train. We've got the momentum building up. Let's keep going. So I'm curious to see how this team responds against the best team in the NFL next week at home when we come out of the bye. Let's talk about grades. And to be honest, I don't have a foolproof system on how I'm going to do this, but I would like to take a look at those that have played a big part in the team, starters, backups, give an initial grade and thought of what I've seen so far. So we'll start with what's on the depth chart, Panthers.com, with Xavier Legette. And for me, I'm going to give Xavier a B+. Probably could teeter close to an A. A-. Everything Xavier Legette has done has been like he is showing you that he can be that number one wide receiver. He's a touchdown machine, and we all love the celebrations. I cannot get enough of Xavier Legette riding the horse. Dollar dollar bill, y'all. Singing dollar dollar bill, y'all. Ike Ekwonu, next up on the list. I'm giving him also a solid B+. Probably could give him an A. I don't want to give out a bunch of A's, though, but Ike Ekwonu, B+. He has performed much better this year. That sophomore slump is over. He looks like a fantastic offensive lineman for the Carolina Panthers. Damian Lewis, who has battled injuries, brought over to shore up the interior offensive line. I give him a solid B as well. There's no doubt that the impact that we have on the interior is making quite the difference. Brady Christensen, technically right now listed as your starting center, he's getting an A+. Not only because he has done a fantastic job as a center, he's done a fantastic job as a left tackle. He can play any position on this offensive line, and he is going to be due for a very nice paycheck next year, either as a starter or a rotational piece. This guy is a utility Swiss Army knife on the offensive line. Robert Hunt, I will give a very big A+. I know he's had some misses. I even talked about one just then, but I like Robert Hunt. And again, you talk about the interior of this offensive line. He's played every snap. This dude is the new Iron Man for this team, and I'm glad the Panthers paid him a bunch of money and they brought him in. It was well worth the investment. And then our man Taylor Moton, who's had some ups and downs, give him a solid B-. Because to be honest, the entire offensive line as a whole, although those grades don't add up, should be given an A+. Because they are one of the best offensive lines in the league, even through the injuries. We move down to Tommy Tremble, technically listed as the starter, and Ian Thomas. And to be honest, I know these guys battled injuries, and it's been a rough year. But I gotta go down. I gotta go down to about the C- range, maybe even a D+. I don't know if either of these guys. I mean, yes, we're gonna need a blocking tight end, so maybe that's Tommy Tremble. But it's hard to envision both of these guys being back on this team next year. It could happen. I'm not saying it shouldn't happen, but they have not. What Jatavian Sanders has done in his first year has showed us he's going to be the pass-catching tight end that we've been looking for. Adam Thielen missed too much time, so I feel like I should pass on him. But in the limited time we saw, probably an A. But it was so limited that I think I would just pass on that. Andy Dalton, who actually is listed as the starter still, I'll give him a C. I was thinking B, but I can't base it off of one game. We did see spurts of good football, but we also saw a decline. Like, there was absolutely a decline that was happening for him over the last few weeks. So for me, Andy Dalton, C, but a solid C. We'll take it. Chuba Hubbard, A+. Hands down, best player on the offense right now. A++, 100, perfect score, whatever you want to say. He's been great, and I'm glad the Panthers have him here. Jalen Coker, I'd give a solid B to him as well, maybe even a B+. In the limited production, so he's missed the first few games, and the production that he has had for this team, man, the Panthers trio of rookies, and now fourth rookie coming into the mix, is going to be a scary sight for teams in the future. Look at some of the rotational guys that have played. Josh Nijman has stood in well on the offense, so B for me. Same thing with Chandler Zavala. We've got a good rotation of backups. Cade Mays. I'm giving Cade Mays an A just because he was on a practice squad, got called over. He's our third string center, and he started. Dude never played center before. Solid A for him, just on his versatility as well. Then we will move into Jatavian Sanders, who is going to get an A. A from me. I love what we've seen from the rookie, and I hope he continues to grow like we've said, with this group of core players. Felipe Franks for special teams, we'll give him a C. C+. Take it. I like his he is a smack talker, Sam Franklin-esque down there on special teams. Bryce Young, I gave Andy a C. We're going to give Bryce Young a C+. That's probably closer to a C, but we'll give him a C plus based off of the performance the last few weeks. I like what we've seen. If you had asked me week 1, week 2, this would have been an F. He would have been failing. So we have Miles Sanders, the last grade that we'll give out. And so Miles, I will give a solid C plus to a B minus, and only because the effort's there. It's just not panning out. I know he got injured, but as a football player and a fan of the Carolina Panthers, I appreciate him. So that rounds out your offense. On defense, it's a little bit harder because everyone has moved around and we've had such a rotation. So I guess we'll go off the guys that we have seen a lot of. I guess I'll go through the starters. Brian Ray and Shai Tuttle, I think I'll give both of them a C's. Like, I'm not super impressed by these guys, but I think considering what they've had to do to fill in, and it's kind of been hit or miss on the defensive line, I think I'll stick with that. A'Shawn Robinson, B+. He is coming around. I would have loved to seen him with Derek Brown, and hopefully we get to, see that in a full season next year. But he's definitely found his groove. He turned into a turnover machine, and he's fit the part. Jadeveon Clowney, I think I will have to go C+ to a B-, but to be honest, I think part of that is like he just hasn't had anyone opposite. And I think now with DJ Wonnum in the mix, and we saw it against the Giants, there's a lot of opportunity, I think, for him now with a more balanced front on the defensive line. Josie Jewell, same. Like, I would have given him a D. Not D's low. A C- earlier. I think I'm going to have to go B- right now because he has also kind of come alive for this team, made some plays over the last few weeks, and been a big part of us winning. DJ Wonnum, it's too early to call, but if we were grading last week, we'd say A+. He got to the quarterback, and made an impact, but we're going to exclude him from the grading scale because we need to see more. J.C. Horn gets an A++. Best player on defense, hands down. Similar boat to Chuba Hubbard. I know we've got the 5th-year option for him, but we need to extend him. I love the energy that he brings. I love the tone setting that he has done on defense, jabbing at players, whatever it is, shutting them down too on the defensive side of the ball. This guy's good. Mike Jackson, what a surprise. He is getting a B+. Probably could go A-. I know he's had some misses, but this dude has stepped in. I mean, you think about it. We traded a 7th-round pick for a NFL starter, and now you're looking at your secondary being locked up next year. I mean, take it all the way. Xavier Woods, B-. I mean, we've seen some good things out of him. I know he's had some tough breaks too as well, but we'll go with a B-. Jordan Fuller has not played enough. He's kind of in the same boat, so I don't know if we could put him in there. And then looking at the rest of the list, it's hard to grade some of these guys right now because we just haven't seen a lot. I think DJ Johnson would probably get a C-. Jaden Crumedy we haven't really seen. Deshaun Williams. I mean, the Dane Jackson as well. Like, we just haven't seen enough. Shaw Smith-Wade, Jamie Robinson, Alani Johnson. It's not enough. One we will give a grade for based off of recent performances, Damani Richardson, undrafted free agent safety. Take it all day. Special teams. I guess Raheem Blackshear, we'll give him a grade, and I don't think I gave David Moore a grade earlier. Raheem Blackshear, for special teams alone, B+, and David Moore, same. Like, they haven't done anything spectacular, but they performed. J.J. Jansen, long snapper, A+, always. Johnny Hecker, A+ punter. We got to get this guy back. All our special teams are up. All these guys are free agents next year. And Eddie Pinheiro, A+ as well. That's right, the same Eddie Pinheiro. Y'all are trying to run off and get him up out of here. A+ for me. We're going to close out this episode talking through a big storyline that came out of Carolina, and not actually out of Carolina, but related to the Carolina Panthers this week, and that is Cam Newton. I don't know how many folks know him, right? Hopefully, if you're a Panthers fan, you do. You've probably seen the video of him on the 4th and 1 podcast, his show, talking about his experience with the Carolina Panthers, not being invited back as a Panthers legend, not being involved with anything, not seeing his pictures plastered anywhere around the stadium. And we heard his take and his opinion on where he feels he is with the Carolina Panthers. And as we think about this, last night I actually recorded a video, and I am in his court. I do agree that the Panthers do need to embrace him. He's done so much for the city, so much for the team. He is the face of the Carolina Panthers. Like Steve Smith, Julius Peppers, all those guys, yes. Luke Kuechly, Jacob, Cam Newton, for a generation of fans, is that guy. And what he did for this franchise cannot go unrecognized. But on the flip side, I will acknowledge this as we talk about Cam Newton and his legacy. What you wonder is he is not officially retired, which he said that in a statement. He said he's not going to retire, but he's done with football. Logistically speaking, if you're the Carolina Panthers, I don't know enough, and I tried to do as much research as I could before this. There's not any public statements or information online on NFL operations, NFL media, that says how you can promote or interact or be involved with a quote-unquote existing player that's not on your team. But given the state of where Cam is, and he's not retired, you have to wonder if the Carolina Panthers simply cannot do anything right now because he hasn't officially retired. And so for me as a Carolina Panthers fan, I know Cam's not going to listen to this. I know the 4th and 1 show has interacted with some of my tweets, but they're not going to listen to this. If you were Cam Newton, and Cam Newton probably wants to get into the Hall of Fame, whether he wants to admit it or not, I would just retire. Retire, and then there's no doubt that I think the city and team would embrace him. And they should. And if they don't, that's a bigger issue, but I do think that they would. And if there is anything that needs to be amended, I do agree that it shouldn't be on Cam. Cam did not do anything wrong to this team, to this city, to this organization. They're the ones that kicked him to the curb. So that is my stance on the Cam Newton situation. And I know Panthers fans just want to see it because he is one of the biggest brands, and especially now with his show and being on ESPN, we see Steve Smith on the NFL Network, and we see a lot of these other big name former NFL players on the pregame shows with Fox, CBS. You see Gronk, you see Brady in the booth. What that could do for the Panthers franchise, in my opinion, from a branding standpoint, to have one of the best to ever do it for the Carolina Panthers, up and involved with the team. I mean, he even talked about wanting to do a transition video episode podcast stuff with Bryce Young and moving that. All those things can happen. And I think it'll continue to help the Carolina Panthers brand and image for fans to get back involved with this team. So that's my take. I'd love to know yours, and I'd also love to know your thoughts on the bye week blues. But until then, this is going to be the bye week. See you later. I am done. It's Carolina Dad. Y'all have a good one.